So what are we discussing today? Hello. We'll be discussing about multi-party negotiation today. Did you read it? Yes, I did. But can you explain it first? Sure. A multi-party negotiation is a negotiation between more than two interested parties that are working together at the table to achieve a collective objective. Wow. It's quite hard to manage compared to one-to-one negotiation, right? There are about 5 or 6 differences between them, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there are about 6 differences: number of parties, informational and computational, social, procedural, logical, and strategic complexity. The first one is the easiest to understand, as multi-party negotiations have more negotiators at the table compared to one-to-one negotiation. I can relate to this a lot because of my group mates. We had a hard time deciding our rehearsal time because one of us have family gatherings, one have medical checkups during the day. Then we ended up rehearsing late at night. Wow, that must be challenging for you to manage several different perspectives, right? Thank goodness you guys were so open about it. I know, right? Thank goodness we were equal in our power and social status as well. You are right. Do you also remember about informational and computational complexity? Yeah, it's the increasing issues perspective and total information that we introduce in the negotiation, making the negotiation more complex and demanding, I must say. You are right. It's hard to keep track of everyone's perspective and find one solution that fits everything. Remember my sister's wedding? My family was so demanding that the designer really had a hard time dealing with us. So, what theme do you want for the hall? I want to have a rustic theme with white flowers as today's decoration. Very well. Great choice indeed. Wow, that was intense. I know. What about social complexity? It's about the social environment that can affect the negotiators' behavior as the number of parties increase. There are 3 main things in this complexity: is the motivational orientation of the parties involved, the social pressure development, and lastly the dysfunctional dynamics. Oh my god, look at the time. I really need to get ready for my next class. I will ask my friend to explain the remaining 3 complexities to you. Great. Bye. Alright then. Bye.
3 more complexities. Hey, wait, you're supposed to be the guy to be explaining it, right? Oh yes, you're right. There are procedural, logistical, and strategic complexity. Well yeah, then what is procedural complexity? Well, when more parties are involved, the procedural rules becomes far less clear. Whose turn it is to do what, how do the parties coordinate, where they are in the negotiation. I mean opening statements, presentation of viewpoints, and moving towards an agreement? Yes, that. Well, there are several consequences to this complexity. Well, first one, the negotiation will take longer. Second, the greater the number of parties, the more complex and out of control the process can become. Third is that the negotiation will probably have to devote explicit discussion time to how they will manage the process to come to an agreement. Finally, the parties must decide how they want to approach multiple issues on the table. Oh. Well, I read a report that says parties who discuss multiple issues simultaneously are more likely to achieve higher quality agreements compared with groups that approach the issues sequentially. Okay, alright, everybody settle down. Okay, welcome to Pizza Hut. Alright, so those, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Okay, so everybody who wants food first, you go to this lane. Everybody who wants drink first, you go to this lane. Okay, make it fair. Don't spill anything, especially pizza. I want that. This is definitely easier than asking them one by one. Okay, well, logistical complexity. Multi-party negotiations may be more complex with physical distance. If parties are not in the same room with each other... This is not the physical distance with the pandemic, right? I mean, it's like using electronic media like telephone, video conference, emails, web chats, those things, right? Yes, or are just especially away from each other, parties are more likely to feel socially disconnected from each other, react less positively. Well, yeah, and I heard that this physical distance can affect how much the parties trust each other, the way they interpret unclear or ambiguous behaviors of the other parties, and the willingness to continue the negotiation. Like, that's a lot. Yep, that's true. And this distance, well, whether it's physical or psychological, seems to affect how parties interpret what others are doing and the hints whether it's cooperative or competitive behavior. But this won't happen face to face, right? This won't happen in face to face. Is that a smiley face? Well, I'm trying to contact the seller, see if I can get a discount. He's replying with a smiley face. I mean, I can't tell if he's being genuinely nice or just being sarcastic. Is 35% really that much? Lastly, strategic complexity. In a multi-party negotiation, the negotiator must consider the strategies of all the other parties at the table and decide whether to deal with each of them separately or collectively while being watched by the other members. And of course, there are several consequences to this. First, these exchanges are subject to surveillance by the audience, Negotiators will be sensitive to being observed and may feel the need to be seen tough and firm. As a result, they may end up using distributive strategies and tactics even if they did not intend to do so. Well, somebody's got social anxiety. No, I'm not being cheap. No, I'm not being cheap. I can order 20 boxes of pizza. I can order 20 boxes of pizzas and send it to the office tomorrow morning. Second, negotiators with the right maneuver will take advantage to get support for their own position or point of view, to add independent testimony, or simply to present just a show of force, enhancing their perceived power through sheer numbers and to show prestige. Yeah, you definitely not want to get in their way. Pizza. We want pizza. Come on, everybody, louder. We want pizza. Third, negotiators can build coalition to add collective weight to their combined view and may dominate the negotiation process or shape the desired settlement. This is called a snowballing coalition. Oh, and it's called snowballing because, like a snowball down a hill, it rolls up, gets bigger. Yep, and it builds up over time as it rolls, yep. Well, those who may be unwilling to negotiate or unable to modify their views are eventually rejected and get left out of the collective decision, especially the final deciding moments past the second half of the negotiation. Well, can we finally get pizza now?
No, but hybrid pizza, damn.
Okay, you don't have to yell. Well, and finally, relationships are the most significant force in shaping which parties will enter coalitions with each other. Their past and possible future activities will have a strong impact. Oh, we see this happen a lot on TV. Yeah, we've seen this happen a lot. Hey, you wanna grab some pizza? Where are you going? Wait, I thought we're cousins. Well, never mind that. Some gut relationships should have a similar preferences, strong concern for one another, and desire to help the others achieve their outcomes, create strong, sustaining trust among the parties. Well, I guess that wouldn't happen with that person. I should get some pizza just by my own.
Next, we'll move on to dynamics a group can make for multi-party negotiation to be effective. Before we start, hold on. Hello? I need help. What's going on? Tell me how to handle multi-party negotiation because this is hell for me. I cannot handle this. Good timing, I guess. I was about to... Okay, anyway. All you need to do is master the attributes of an effective group. What do you think an effective group members should do? I don't know. Discussing the assumptions and process with others? Correct. And you also need to share as much relevant information as possible. But be careful not to disclose it right now. Third, you should also focus on interests by revealing underlying interests, not only the positions. Oh, what about explaining reasons behind our statements, questions and answers? Yes, we need to tell them why we think the idea is important. Other than that, we also need to be specific by using examples and agree on the meaning of the important words by understanding the keywords that may be part of the agreement. Next, you should also be able to disagree openly with members without being offensive. When making statements, you should also invite questions and comments. But isn't that only necessary when disagreement happens? No, it is a need to encourage others to clarify their understanding of your interests. I see. Then do we also need to design ways to test disagreements and solutions together? Of course. To solve problems, you need to develop a method to reveal the cause behind the disagreements, for instance. Next, you also need to discuss undiscussable issues, such as members who aren't performing up to expectations for the group to be effective. Aside from that, we must be able to keep the discussion focused by not create irrelevant sidetracks by minimizing distractions like jokes. Oh, also, does everyone need to participate in all the phases of the process? Yep. Also make sure to exchange relevant information with members who are not at the table, such as outsiders who are invited as experts or something. You should also make decisions by consensus. Although reaching a consensus is not always possible, but you should still try for it. Finally, the most important one is to conduct a self-critique. Between important decisions or deliberations, you should spend some time analyzing process and efficacy. Do you get that now, Claire? Thank you so much for helping me. I think I'll be able to handle the meeting after this. I owe you this one, okay? See you later. Bye. Okay, bye. Well, now that we are done with dynamics, let's move on to the next scene. Adriana.
I think the finance team prepared is having an argument. They are so loud.
An argument? I think it's going to be hard for them to have one definite decision.
Why?
They may be a team, but each of them is likely to have a different solution to the problem.
Yeah, that's right, but do you want to know something?
What is it?
If they follow these 3 key stages in managing multi-party negotiation, which are the pre-negotiation stage, the formal negotiation stage, and the agreement stage, it would be easier for them to cope and come to a collective decision.
Can you tell me more about that? It's my break time anyways.
Yes, sure, why not? Since we don't have a lot of time, I will only be explaining on the first stage of multi-party negotiation, which is called the pre-negotiation stage. It is where the parties define the issues that need to be solved and begin to gather information and prepare for the negotiation process. This often include research and discovery, as well as negotiating to define the terms that will be negotiated. So during this stage, the parties will need to engage in a lot of informal contact and make a number of decisions, including...
I see, but I'm quite confused. What do you mean by selecting the participants? Isn't the finance team already a team?
In some cases, the participants in the negotiation proceedings are obvious and fixed participants. Thus, there is little discussion on this issue, just like the finance team. But for others, this is a key function as it sets out who will and will not be involved in the negotiation process, which may ultimately have an impact on any decision reached in the eventual negotiation.
Oh, I get it now.
Next, coalition refers to the coming together of individuals and groups intending to attain a similar goal or decision. In regard to coalition building, it is not rare for coalitions to form in advance of the parties meeting, just right before negotiation begin.
I understand, but why is there a need for coalition?
These coalitions might arise to support or oppose a certain agenda item. When 2 or more group or individual come together in pursuit of a similar goal, then they will have more power to make negotiation.
Wow, you know a lot. After they form a coalition, they must define the member roles, right? I think I know what it is.
Yes. Oh, you do? I was about to explain on that, but okay, sure, I would love to listen more from your side. Tell me about it.
Once participants are identified and coalition form, the participants will begin defining and assigning roles in the negotiation. There are 3 types of roles that members might play, which are task roles, relationship roles, and self-oriented roles. I'll explain these type of roles in detail. The first one is task roles, which are related to getting the work or business done. The members of a particular group might represent different roles needed to take the desired project from the initial conception to the action towards its goal. In another word, task roles set its member to move the whole group along toward a decision or a conclusion that will benefit all parties in the negotiation. The example of task role is the initiator who proposed the initial ideas in reaching the group's objectives. Another example is the recorder in the group who acts as the secretary or the minute keeper. The second one is the relationship roles, which will contribute to the optimistic and positivity functioning of a particular group. In another word, relationship roles can help a group to maintain good relationships among its members. This role is very important to keep everyone's expectations realistic. There are a few tips to implement when playing relationship roles, such as be dependable among the group members, be flexible to allow everyone to grow, and be affirming, like telling your group member, you did a very good job. Last but not least is the self-oriented roles, which serve to bring attention to the individual group member, which often at the expense of the group's effectiveness. Also, it can be a role that disrupts a group's progress and weakens its cohesion among the members. The example of these roles are the members who are help seekers. They will constantly seek sympathy by expressing their shortcomings. For instance, they might always say, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you because I'm so useless and I know nothing about this task."
Amazing, Adriana. You know a lot about this. Wait, oh my god. My break is over now. I have to go. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Then, focus. Oops, sorry boss. So what do we do now since Team A couldn't reach an agreement about the school project? Did you skip the negotiation camp that I sent you yesterday? It's okay. Miss Joy, do you mind explain to the intern why first of all we need to understand costs and consequences of no agreement? Alright boss. Let's say a fashion company is trying to produce a new collection for Hari Raya. To make this decision effectively, they must consider what will happen if they fail to agree. For example, if they fail to agree on the limited edition design, what will be the cost and consequences of this no agreement? Will they ask the president to step in? Or will they go for the group member with better in-pace alternatives or partners? What will they do is called understanding costs and consequences if there is no agreement. Now I want you to understand an important thing. Why is it hard for some people to prepare costs and consequences if they have no agreement? Miss Joy, explain please. Some negotiators fail to do so because they believe their options are better. They believe they are more likely to achieve their goals compared to others. This is considered as perceptual bias. A technique that can help with this issue is reality check. Some people may find it difficult to do or avoid doing so since they think it could damage their reputation or self-esteem. However, reality check is really important because it protects you from a larger problem and it is also a very smart move. Do you understand? You need to do this before you start a negotiation. It's like wearing a seatbelt before you driving. Can we discuss about the design first? But what about the supplier list? We need it by tomorrow. What do we do? You know why everything is crowded and unorganized? It is because you do not have an agenda. Miss Joy, explain. Let me explain this. Most of people take time to become familiar with the issue by obtaining information about everything. Besides, they also can invest a great amount of time building an agenda. An agenda is a list or outline of items to consider or to do. It can be used to set up the decision rule, discussion standard, member responsibility, and discussion dynamic. Besides from setting an agenda, parties in the process may also agree to follow a set of ground rules as guidelines for how to manage themselves during the negotiation. You can use the CONNECT model and requirement for building a relationship as example for ground rules. Thank you so much for your explanation, Miss Joy. Boss, how do we do this? Miss Joy? Miss Joy quit. She left you some notes.
And I think that's all for today. Thank you, everyone.
Adam.
I'm exhausted. But hey, don't you think our discussion went really great? Oh yeah, I guess it does. Since we did take several approaches, our decision is a high quality one. Approaches? What approaches? Well, in the formal negotiation stage where the parties started managing the process and outcome, there are several approaches that may help to ensure a high quality decision. Oh, tell me about it. What are those? Sure. Firstly, to appoint an appropriate chair. Multi-party negotiations will proceed more smoothly when it is clear to everyone involved who is chairing or facilitating the process. Often, this role will be played by one of the interested parties, but multi-party negotiations can be greatly facilitated by the presence of a neutral chairperson. Now that you've mentioned, I think Sir Adam really suits the role. He's great. Yep, I agree on that. He's sensitive to keeping tight control over the process while not directly affecting the eventual outcome. What's the next approaches? The second approach is to use and restructure the agenda. A critical way to control the flow and direction of negotiations is through an agenda. An agenda adds a high degree of structure, organization, and coordination to a discussion. I see. And the next approaches? The third one is to ensure a diversity of information and perspective. When facilitating a negotiation, it is better to ensure that the parties receive a wide variety of different perspectives about the task and different sources of information. Why is that? Because the nature of information changes depending on the task. For example, designing and implementing a change, finding the best possible solution to a problem, or simply finding a solution that is politically acceptable to several constituencies. It is difficult to prescribe what information is critical and how to ensure that it is addressed. You got a point there. Is that all? Nope. The next one is to ensure consideration of all the available information by monitoring discussion norms. Discussion norms reflect the way the parties engage in sharing and evaluating the information introduced. However, there are several group norms that can undermine an effective discussion. Like? But I haven't eaten lunch yet, so go ask Iman about it. Bye.
Hello Iman, can you tell me about the strategies used to manage destructive discussion norms? Oh, hi Siti. Sure, why not? So, to manage destructive discussion norms, the parties must generate and exchange ideas in a manner that permits full exploration and allows everyone to have some input, yet avoid some of the destructive conflict and emotions that can occur. Wow, that sounds quite challenging. Is there any technique for that? Actually, there are. The first one is the Delphi technique. It is used by surveying a panel of parties. Parties respond to several rounds of questionnaires, and the responses are aggregated and shared with the group after each round. So, in detail, it works like this. The second technique is the brainstorming, where the parties generate as many solutions as possible without criticizing any of them. I understand better now. The last one is nominal group technique. This technique is usually used after brainstorming. After creating a brainstorm list of solution options, parties can rank, rate, or evaluate the alternatives based on how well each alternative solved the problem. The leader gathers, posts, and records these ratings, so that all parties can formally evaluate the options and vote on the ones they believe are the most effective. Iman, could you please help me with this paper? Yes, of course. I'll be right there in a bit. Got to go. Bye, Siti. What about the rest of the approaches? I got things to do. Maybe you could ask Atul to explain the rest to you.
No worries, Siti. I'll explain the rest to you. Managing conflicts effectively is one of the most important ways in negotiation stage. By improving our
communication with our counterparts, we can avoid misunderstandings and provide a channel for trust-building techniques like active listening, deferring judgment, replaying what we hear, and demonstrating empathy when appropriate. We must also consider the viewpoints of opposing parties. Putting ourselves in our counterpart's shoes necessitates genuine curiosity about their needs, interests, and motivations, and it is the quickest way to eliminate biases in our own thinking and accurately predict our counterparty's next moves.
Ah, I see. I've heard about reviews and decision rules lately regarding negotiation. Do you have any information about that?
Absolutely. It is one of the main approaches in terms of negotiation stage. Another important principle is to be prepared for a negotiation by understanding both of our and the other party's options, as well as the starting and end points. We are definitely at a disadvantage if we are asked to negotiate without this information. Then we should ask a lot of questions and take more time to fully investigate our needs and options before making decisions that could have far-reaching negative consequences. Also, make an effort to negotiate directly with the decision maker so that we can reach an agreement very quickly. If we're the decision maker, have someone else negotiate on our behalf so we're not shackled by a hardcore negotiating tactics. This gives us the chance to practice patience, go over the proposal more carefully rather than reacting emotionally and make counter proposals. Decision rules are indeed significant in negotiation process. What about other approaches? Attempt to reach consensus on the first agreement. Negotiators were 3 times more likely to try to make the first offer when they had a strong alternative to a negotiated agreement. Making the first offer, in particular, provided a significant bargaining advantage. This assertiveness not only benefits the powerful negotiator, but it also facilitates integrative negotiations and the identification of mutually beneficial trade-offs that benefits both parties. We also need to know how to deal with some parties' problematic behavior. Negotiate with difficult people in private when it's safe and possible, as this may allow them to be more flexible. Make it clear to be the difficult person that we are in charge. If there is a problem, don't go to the difficult person just to talk about it. When effectively communicated, consequence causes the challenging individual to pause and shift from instruction to cooperation. That's very informative. Thank you, Radiatul. You're very welcome.
Excuse me, may I know what is the final stage of multi-party negotiation? It is called the agreement stage. The agreement stage of a negotiation is when the parties must select among the alternatives on the table, develop an action plan, implement the selected plan, and evaluate the process and outcomes. That's right. The parties need to select alternatives that can satisfy as many members as possible, develop an action plan to eliminate ambiguities and prevent conflict, implement the action plan, and evaluate the outcome critically for effectiveness of the next process. But what makes a good action plan? It must contain list of key steps, the objectives to be achieved at each step, when the step should be started and completed, what resources are needed to complete the step, and who has responsibility for completing the step. Generally, the lead or chair of the negotiation can take the following steps to facilitate the process. Firstly, move the group towards selecting one or more of the options by listening for emergence of the snowballing coalition among key members. Secondly, shape and draft the tentative agreement, making sure all parties understand the agreement. Thirdly, discuss whatever implementation and follow-up need to occur. Fourthly, thank the group for their participation by celebrating their hard work. And fifthly, organize and facilitate the postmortem so that the parties and the chair can do better or differently during next agreement process. Nice! Do you know? A research study regarding this stage has been made on the 1st January 2001, where it is proved that successful international mediation of Tajikistan conflict reached a peace agreement through cooperation by each parties. Wow, amazing facts! Your team is good at making action plan. It is so clear and straightforward. My team is looking forward to work with your department next week. Well, both of our teams agreed that this product is the best product for our company. Thus, it is the most creative product among all the alternatives. So, have a nice day. See you again.